Welcome back to Pharmatech Frontiers. I'm Ritika, and today I'm joined with Muhammad Aslam for our third cutting edge episode. Today we are exploring nanotechnology in drug discovery and drug delivery. Muhammad, how are nanoparticles revolutionizing the way we deliver drugs to specific targets in the body?
Ritika. These nanoparticles are tiny carriers that transforming drug delivery. Unlike conventional drugs that spread through the whole body and cause side effects, nanoparticles can protect the drug and get it right to the diseased tissue. That means the targeted drug delivery is possible. So they take advantages of enhanced permeability retention effect, where leaky blood vessels in tumors let them slip through and accumulate at the site. So we can also add targeting molecules on their surface to recognize diseased cells and spare healthy ones. So it will reduce the toxicity. And Doxil, a liposomal cancer drug, and a lipid nanoparticle used in COVID-19 vaccines are real-world examples of how nanomedicine is already saving lives.
That sounds great. So, let's talk about small nanoparticles that can respond to the environment. I think that would make it a bit more like give it a fuller sense. So, how do these stimuli responsive systems work? Can you explain that?
Yes, actually, smart nanoparticles are next frontiers in nanomedicine because they don't just carry drugs; they sense and respond to the body. For example, pH responsive nanoparticles they release the medicine in based on the pH. Like in tumor, most of the environment will be in acidic pH. So when they reach it in that particular site, it will start to release the drugs. Then, other than that, like while temperature sensitive liposomes respond to mild heat applied to tumor, so dumping their cargo precisely where it is needed. So then another examples are enzyme cleavable systems. Then other things. So this enzyme cleavable acts like we know lock and key mechanism. So releasing the drugs only in diseased tissue that produce specific enzymes. So other example, light activated carriers are there. We will control it by using external uh, light by providing infrared lights and all. So all these strategies aim for on demand like site specific therapy and treating the exact place at the exact time.
Right. So, lipid nanoparticles gained the fame during the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine development times. So, how are these being adopted for other future, therapeutic applications?
Actually, lipid nanoparticles become famous during COVID-19 because they made a mRNA vaccine possible. We know we have struggled in drug discovery lot to make like mRNA vaccines, etc. So here in during COVID, that lipid nanoparticles make it achievable, and rather than that, but they're now it is go far beyond infectious disease. So LNP has tiny fat-based spheres that protect fragile genetic material like mRNA, siRNA, and help them to enter in the cells. So this same approach being used for cancer, where lipid nanoparticles can deliver mRNA that train the immune system to attack tumors. So paving the way for personalized cancer vaccines. And they also play a key role in gene editing, like CRISPR component are delivered to safely into the targeted cells. So right now, mainly LNPs are there for liver disease and all, but researchers are redesigning them to each reach in other organs like brain, even other organs also.
Okay, so what about inorganic nanoparticles like gold or silica, and what unique properties do they offer for drug delivery exactly?
Inorganic nanoparticles are excited drug carriers because they offer unique properties beyond what lipid or other polymer can do. Gold nanoparticle, for example, absorb near infrared light and convert it into heat, making them powerful tool for photothermal cancer therapy. Then mesoporous silica nanoparticles act like tiny sponges, storing drugs in their pores and releasing them in the controlled or trigger-based way. And their magnetic nanoparticles can even be guided to specific tissues using the external magnet and release drugs through localized heating. So the main challenges are there. A few challenges are there. It's biocompatibility, since they don't naturally break down, but coatings with polymers or proteins are helping improve safety. So overall, these nanoparticles don't just deliver drugs; they add new functions like heat, magnetism, and smart release, opening the door to next generation therapies.
Right. So the blood-brain barrier, which is notoriously difficult to cross by many, many drugs. So how are nanoparticles being engineered to deliver drugs to the brain?
Yes, actually, as we know, the BBB or blood-brain barrier is the hardest place to deliver drugs. Uh, it is preventing the drug absorption in brain. So nanoparticles are giving scientists clever ways around it. One method is receptor mediated transport, that decorating nanoparticles with the molecules that mimic nutrients like glucose. So the BBB pulls them across while by thinking it's a normal glucose molecule or like that. So another is focused on like ultrasound with micro bubbles. So which briefly loosens the barrier so nanoparticles can slip through. There are also nasal delivery where nanoparticles travel directly to the nose to brain through olfactory nerves. So this isn't just theory, clinical trials are testing RNA loaded nanoparticles for brain tumors. Then the ultrasound has already been used in Alzheimer's patients. So, by mimicking, opening, or bypassing the barrier, nanoparticles are making brain drug delivery reality.
Okay, so what about intracellular delivery? How do nanoparticles get inside cells and release their cargo?
Yes, actually, that getting a drug into the right tissue is just the first step. The real challenge is getting it into the inside the cells. So most nanoparticles enter via endocytosis, so forming endosomes. But drugs can get trapped and degraded there. So to solve these, nanoparticles use endosomal escape strategies like pH sensitive lipids or polymers that disrupt the endosomes as it acidifies and safely releasing the cargo into cytoplasm. Once inside, delivery depends on the therapy. mRNA or siRNA act in the cytoplasm, while DNA or gene editing tools must reach to the nucleus, sometimes using nuclear localization signals or cell division windows. So, researchers are also targeting organelle like sending antioxidants to mitochondria or therapies to lysosome for storage disorders, so making intracellular delivery more precise than ever.
So how can nanoparticle system be personalized for individual patients, let's say, and what factors determine optimal, nano carrier design?
Uh, Actually, one of the most exciting frontiers in nanomedicine is personalization only, designing nanoparticle tailored to each patient. So, how nanoparticles behave depends on factors like age, metabolism, immune activity, and even two people with the same cancer can respond separately, differently. So, tumors themselves can also high variable, so with the difference in blood vessels acidity or by receptors present. To address these, researchers are turning the biomarker guided design, so profiling a tumor features and matching nanoparticles with the right ligand while imaging tracks if they reach the target or not. So personalization can also mean tweaking particle size, surface chemistry, or even creating mRNA loaded nanoparticles matched to patients' tumor mutations.
Right. Coming into artificial intelligence and it being used to, design and optimize certain nanoparticles, how do these computational approaches work?
Actually, artificial intelligence is transforming how we design nanoparticles. So instead of relying on slow trial and error, machine learning can quickly predict the best material, shapes, and coating for stability, targeting, and drug release. So AI also forecasts where nanoparticles will go in the body, whether they end up in the liver, spleen, or any other organ, and ideally at a tumor based on priorities like size and charges, as we mentioned earlier. So it's especially powerful for uncovering structural activity relationships, showing how tiny surface changes affect performance. And when combined with high throughput scanning, robots can make and test thousands of formulation while AI spots hidden patterns. So together, this turn nanomedicine design into a data-driven science, accelerating discovery and moving us closer to patient-tailored nanoparticles.
Right, so moving from lab scale to commercial production of nanoparticles presents many unique challenges. Sometimes we cannot even like foresee that. So, what are the key manufacturing considerations?
Uh, Actually, designing nanoparticle in the lab is one thing, but making them at commercial scale is all different challenge. So the first hurdle is scalability. So process that work in a beaker often doesn't translate to large reactors without losing control over size and drug loading. As we know, maintenance of size is much important for nanomedicines. So they come that then main issue is quality control and consistency because as we mentioned, nanoparticles are too small. Even tiny changes can affect how they behave in the body. So manufacturer need to sensitive tools and strict reproducibility. So add to rigorous GMP requirements and high cost of specialized equipments and materials, and it's clear why manufacture is such a bottleneck. So scaling up nanomedicine isn't just about making bigger batches. It's about precision, safety, and affordability to bring these therapies to patients.
How are continuous manufacturing processes being adapted for nanoparticle productions?
One of the most promising advances in nanoparticle manufacturing is microfluidics, where lipid and drug streams mix in the tiny channels to produce highly uniform particles. So it's critical for RNA therapies where small variation affect safety and efficacy. So for larger scale production, continuous flow reactors give precise control over temperature, flow, and reaction time, ensuring the reproducibility that traditional batch method often can't match. So in real-time quality monitoring adds another layer, like tracking particle size, surface charge, and loading uh, catch issues immediately. So together, like microfluidics, continuous flow, and real-time monitoring make nanoparticles production faster and more reliable and scalable. And it's also aligned with the regulatory standards, ready to deliver advanced medicine to patients worldwide.
Right, so what are the certain unique regulatory challenges that nanomedicine faces as comparison to conventional drugs that you can think at the top of your head?
Actually, nanomedicines face unique regulatory challenges because of its size only nanoscales. Even tiny changes in the size or surface chemistry can dramatically alter its behavior in the body. So, regulators like FDA or EMA don't have actually separate rules for nanomedicine, but they take a risk based, case by case approach with a much deeper scrutiny.
What are the next frontiers in nanotechnology based drug discovery, do you think?
So the FDA stratifies nanomedicines by risk level, while EMA uh, issues guidance and reflection papers. So historical example like doxil to lipid nanoparticles particles in COVID-19 vaccine show that with the rigorous data and consistency, these therapies can succeed.
Thank you, Mohammed, for joining the podcast, and thank you to all the listeners for joining in. If you like the podcast, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.